Now recording.
Well, hello everyone out there. This is Jerod Leopold, and I'm along here with this guy over here.
Wee! I'm Will.
And this is Will and Jerod Make a Game. And today we're going back into doing an interview. And with us today, we've got Stephanie Bryant, who I've just pulled up her Start Playing website. You can see it on the video there. I bumped into Stephanie on the Raspberry Raven Discord part where they do some playtesting, and it was during a drama system season that Stephanie was nice enough to run a game on that Discord where I got to play in with Ariel. And Ariel and I were Boy Scout monsters, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
And we were doing playtesting, hunting this down. Uh, Stephanie, can you tell us exactly what that was all about and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephanie Bryant. My pronouns are she, her. I am a game designer from Las Vegas, and what we were playtesting that day is my um, drama system hack in progress, I guess you could call it, where I'm kind of writing a series of drama system playsets with some different rules for the procedural side of the drama system. Drama system does really, really great interpersonal mechanics, but the procedural side of things, where you determine success, events or actions that have a chance of success or failure, tends to be a little harder to grasp for most people. And so I've come up with a way to do action drama in drama system that I think is actually pretty elegant and is largely based on the time that you have left in the episode, much like most action scripts are based on how much time is left in in the story.
interesting. So, like the real world time in your play
Yep.
session? Okay.
Yep. If you have a 4-hour play session planned, the first half or so of the time is anything you try will not work. The next 40% of the time, anything you try will make it worse. And the last 10% is when you will have the breakthrough and the next thing that you do will succeed. So, and that's just
Interesting.
for the action part. The drama, that's all regular drama system, but it's just for the action side of things of, if you're trying to tell a Star Trek story, or you're trying to tell well, we did teenage monsters at summer camp, or whatever story you're telling that is a uh, um, the interpersonal drama is overlaid onto a some kind of action story. It could be a western, it can be urban fantasy, it can be high fantasy, whatever it is. Yeah.
Now, that was a couple weeks ago, maybe all the way 4 weeks ago at this point when I got to run in there. Have you gotten it tightened up to something that you're getting ready to release pretty soon? Or like, do you have a schedule for that at all?
So embarrassingly, no. Instead, what I've worked on since then is working on the Magical Girl uh, RPG that I'm working on. And
Ah,
then yesterday, I got smacked in the head with an idea for a solo journaling game based on a game jam that's going on for the Crafted in a Shell SRD game jam. So I I am not diagnosed with ADHD. I'm just going to say it that way.
but focus is hard.
But focus can be very challenging for
Hey,
me.
hey, Will, is this going to come out maybe this coming Monday?
Yeah, this one should, I think. Yep.
So you want to give a shout out to that jam if other people maybe want to hear about it?
Yeah, it's Crafted in a Shell. uh, Game Jam, SRD Game Jam, and the um, hold on.
I admit that's
Innocent innocentgoblin.itch.io is the author of Crafted in a Shell SRD, which is based on um, the solo RPG Everyone Deserves Shelter, which is about a hermit crab trying to find a new shell.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
okay.
right. It sounds really sweet. A lot of the games that Innocent Goblin writes in this same, SRD same format are pretty. They're pretty nice. Like they're kind of cozy, even the one about a post-apocalyptic wasteland and radioactive wasteland, like you're going to the beach.
oh.
Um, and then I inspired by this inspired by this SRD, I took that idea and I said, what kind of journey would be interesting to tell a story about? And I decided that writing a story about people fleeing the hurricane right now would not be so much fun, even though that was an interesting idea. And instead, I went with somebody who is journeying through the process of grieving someone that they loved very much. And so, yeah, so here I am. It's my mother died 3 years ago, and I am apparently writing a game that is an exploration of the tremendous grief, not just that celebrity died and isn't that sad,
Yeah.
but the kind of grief that you carry with you for a long time after the person is gone.
Yeah, you've got a fairly um, extensive library. Just pulling it up on the website and going through it. And you mentioned like going through grief and emotions. You've been doing this for about how many years as far as like designing games, would you say, ballpark?
um at least 10.
And how important would you say that impetus is? Like, is that where you start with your process? I mean, working through something like that, with the grief and through that, is that something that needs to be there to start for your
No,
writing? Or is this
no,
just
it
the
doesn't.
kickoff for this one?
It's just one of those things that and I just looked on my own website, and it turns out my first game was in 2012. Um, and so the thing is, the first game that I actually published, which was in 2012, I I wrote it before this happened, but the first play tests were actually during my nephew's memorial service.
Ooh,
Um,
During the
so
service.
yeah, it was pretty terrible. Probably the worst thing that's ever happened to my family, and we've had some pretty terrible stuff happen. But games bring people together, and it was. I think it's the only game of mine that my mother actually played. So it was like a card game, and um, and I think for me, games do have a certain healing aspect to them because they give me the opportunity to work through feelings and the whole concept of bleed is usually it's kind of like it's one of those things that you partially seek but also want to control. And when you're working through feelings like that, sometimes it actually is helpful to seek out some of that bleed, feel those feelings and reach catharsis. So that's kind of one of those things. I was actually working on Threadbare um before he passed away, and so around 2011 or so. So I was actually working on it before that, uh, and then my nephew died, and I put it to the side for a bit. And it did not get published for another 5 years or so, about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, because I recognized that it was something I couldn't work on. It wasn't just that I was creatively blocked. It was more that I didn't want or need to pour that into that story, right? Because Threadbare is a story about toys that they're broken, but they have a lot of energy and love and life and all of these things, and that's a lovely homage. But I was nowhere near a place emotionally to write that. So yeah, yeah. Sometimes you just have to know when the right time is to set something down and then when to pick it back up again.
Well, it's just such an incredible self-awareness to be able to do that as well. I know that bleed is a little bit of a divisive topic at times in our community, like whether it's something that should be sought after or if it's something that should be strictly not used at all. I know when I first really started taking, and I don't, this is a weird phrase to say, but like taking dungeon mastering seriously, right? When we're just playing Dungeons
Mhm.
and Dragons. But the main thing I wanted to do was to explore things that were happening in society in the D&D world. Like that's why I really wanted to play stuff like did like minority rights and all that sort of thing in my D&D world. And so like the bleed I was really pushing for, and I guess I didn't realize, especially when I was much younger. I mean, it's like 30 years ago,
Sure.
that especially 30 years ago, not be able to handle it as expertly as I should have. But there was some other sessions though that worked out wonderfully because people were kind of seeking those same questions as well. Do you get more responses from players that are exploring those same themes in your games, or have you gotten more recognition just from your design or mechanics, do you feel?
So I think that I mean I'm not mechanically terribly creative. I'll just put that out there. I tend to lean on other people's math for the dice mechanics and things like that. So Threadbare is powered by the apocalypse. I have a lot of games that are the math is pretty simple or straightforward, or I contribute adventures to other people's games so that I don't have to do the math. Someone else did it for me, which I like doing because I'm good at the story part much more than
Mhm.
the dice part. Um, as far as me as a GM, because as you know, I'm also a pro GM. Uh, I would say that my players seek me out for the emotional part of my games. I am known in my circle as the emotional damage GM because, yeah, sure. I don't run D&D a whole lot anymore, but more to the point, if you get into a fight in my game, I may or may not inflict physical damage, and if I do, it won't be nearly as important as the emotional damage. So, it'll be something like, oh, hey, you tried to jump across a chasm, you fell, you broke your leg. That part's not as important as your girlfriend didn't come to the hospital with you to mend up your broken leg. How do you feel about that? So in most RPGs, the key question is what do you do? And for me, the key question a lot of times is how do you feel? And my my players have overused the emotional damage GIF from as a reaction in all of my games of just, they and we there's a lot of trust that goes into that. They trust me, I trust them. We establish a lot of safety tools so that we know that we can go to those places emotionally and that we will have bleed and we will respect each other's bleed for that. And it's delightful. Like I love seeing what happens at the table and away from the table. Some of my friends that met through one of my games, they're now long-term friends, and they're some some of them have confessed crushes to me of, I've got a crush on them, and what do I do? Like, I don't know, it's up to you, but it's at the table. Right. It's delightful. And we started out playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which is a terrific game for messy queer folks like myself, and they bring that to the table. So,
You definitely jumped into a topic I really want to explore a lot more. So you said you were a professional game master.
yeah.
Taking a look at the site, I'm going to pull it up right here. You've been doing this for about, was it 3 years on Start Playing? I guess I should
Yep.
start there. Is that where you started doing it professionally? And
Yep.
how did you get hooked up to that? 'Cause this is really kind of how I know you through this. So if you could walk us through that, that would be amazing. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear it.
So, a few years ago, okay, a few years ago, I used to work for Roll20, and Roll20 has, game listings, and they allow paid GMing and things like that. And I didn't really pursue that at the time. And then about 3 years ago, Start Playing kind of hit the scene. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And I joined. And I really was just kind of doing it as like, initially I did it for free on Start Playing, and I was like, I really, if I'm going to participate on this site, I should probably charge for my services. And I will tell you, the jump from I'm an unpaid GM to being a paid GM was entirely psychological for me. And so I had to trick myself into doing it. And the way I did was, so I'm working on this game, this magical girl game, and I was like, I'm eventually going to need artwork for this game, right? So this is what I put in my brain. I said, I will eventually need artwork for this game, and I would like to earn the money for that and bootstrap the art for it, because you need artwork to do even a crowdfunding
Yeah.
thing these days. And so,
Mhm.
I didn't want to like do Kickstarter with, here's all my lovely text. Thanks. Nobody's gonna be able to envision what it'll look like from just text. So I was like, I'm gonna need, like at least a grand, maybe 2 grand for art. So that's how I tricked myself. I put out my shingle and I said, I'm raising money to fund artwork for my next game. And I just funneled the money into a specific savings account at my bank that's dedicated just to, basically bootstrapping my design, my game design work.
Mhm.
And I've been doing it ever since. Um, it doesn't pay my mortgage or anything like that, right? But it does help to diversify, because, Threadbare came out 6 years ago, or thereabouts, and it's got a very long tail. I will say that it still sells, does pretty well.
Nice.
Um, yeah, super fun little game. It's got great art. Every so often, I think to myself, maybe I should do a second edition, and then I can't think of anything I want to change, which means it's great the
That's
way
a
it
good
is.
game then, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm very happy with what I did with that game,
Yeah,
and I continue to be happy with it. So I just leave it. Um, but Threadbare, it has a long tail, but even its long tail is tapering, and so sales start to drop down a little bit, about every quarter or so. Just a little bit here and there, and that's okay. That's fine. Like, that's the normal life cycle of a product. But what do I do to kind of boost up that sales machine in the meantime, well, little bit of royalties here and there from adventures I've written, and then this, doing the paid GMing helps a lot as well. So
That's
I'm
um,
curious. Oh, I, you had to kind of mentally trick yourself into the paid transition, and I really like that kind of um, through line of, okay, well, this is just an investment into my future product, basically. I'm
yep,
I'm curious, did you also like advertise it that way to other people? Was that a hook that you
I
used to get
did.
people to sign up?
I did. My advertising was largely on Facebook,
Hmm.
to like people I know. I just started there. I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to raise money to pay for the art for this game that I'm writing. Um, if you feel like playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians with me, sign up." And and I think I did a free one shot to sort of get people interested and to get to know my style. And that was great, because in addition to, you know, introducing myself as a GM to a number of people, um, it also got me some reviews. And my Start Playing
Mm.
Games profile, one of the things that I do when I ask players for reviews on there is I request that they talk about what it's like to have me as a GM, because I'm not a typical GM. As I said, it's a lot about the emotions for me. So I want people when they hire me to GM for them or they join one of my games, I want them to know what they're in for. You know, I don't want somebody to come to my game and think that they're going to play, barbarians against Strahd and be disappointed that what I really care about is, you know, did how do you feel about your mom? You know, like, right?
Well, considering Strahd's my stepdad, I'm pretty worried about her.
Right, yeah, what are your feelings about Strahd? Are they a problematic member of your family? And things like that, so
Strahd is my stepdad. Let's make it happen. Let's
That's
go.
honestly, yeah, that's a great name for a comedic, like,
Well, let's take a look. Like on your the start playing site that you have on here, you don't have a billion games listed, but the range of games you have listed is crazy pants. You pick out going from all your like very basics to like Honey Heist. I think
mhm.
I saw Lasers and
I
Feelings on here as well as like your
I
very
hope so.
I think,
microscope.
yep,
Yeah,
I
yep,
see
it's
it.
down here.
I see everyone is John. I feel good about mentioning that now.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I was like, what's on the list?
Yeah,
All the way to the bigger stuff powered by Apocalypse, like Monsters of the Week. I saw some Cthulhu in here.
Fate.
Uh, Fate stuff. The Wild Sea, which I cannot wait to play. I hopefully get to play that in a couple weeks. I'm
Oh,
super excited
nice.
for that one. Um, in one, I wanted to point out that I think would be an absolute baller time with you as a GM is I got to play Good Society for the first time
Ah.
about 2 months ago. And I think playing it with you would be a fantastically good time. Is that one of your top games at all, or is that just
It's not, but I have had at least one person reach out about it.
really?
I haven't scheduled it yet. Um, I kind of I want to do a good society, but I want to give it some kind of hook, and I haven't decided what that is yet. But I will. Maybe I'll do Good Society Steampunk Edition. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I ran Good Society, straight vanilla, right out of the box.
yeah.
I mean, not too straight because it's still me. But I ran it, out of the box, Jane Austen. I'm a huge Regency fan, with people at a convention who had not read any Jane Austen or Regency romance
Oh,
or seen Bridgerton or anything.
okay.
So that was fun. That was interesting. It was different, and they got it. They figured it out, and I mostly facilitated because one of the things with Good Society is that it is pretty GM-less. So I pretty much just facilitated for them and helped them navigate the world of the Regency society more than anything else, and said, "Oh, just so like this is like the thing that person just said is actually a big deal because of the societal expectation. So don't don't take your 21st century attitude towards debt and just think that that's fine. It's not, right? Because you might be in tremendous debt and have no way of earning the money because you're not really supposed to work, right? And then it's like, oh, that's interesting, right? So but yeah, I love Good Society. I have all of the books, all of the cards, and I need to get like need to get a group of people that are as big into Bridgerton as I am to want to play.
It's a
So,
cool system. After we played it the one time, there was immediate talk of like, all right, well, we want to do the next session, the bigger one, where you also have the servants, where you're running like
mhm.
two or three characters. So you're the servants now in the like
Oh,
under the basement.
upstairs,
And like,
downstairs.
yeah, it was,
a little
it got
a little
real deep.
Downton Abbey going on
Yeah,
Yeah.
there.
it
Yeah,
would got deep real quick. So of
yeah.
the ones that you have listed on there, what is your favorite game to elicit your favorite prompts, which is to say, like, how does that make you feel? What games that you run professionally really work the best for you?
Thirsty Sword Lesbian is probably the top for that emotional stakes kind of game. Um, Drama System is a good close second for sure. Uh, I can pull that stuff with just about any game, but those really highlight it. And I'm in an Avatar the Legends game right now, which is it's powered by the apocalypse
Okay.
with sort of an extra framework for the combat side of things. It's kind of an interesting does some interesting stuff for the combat side, and it has this whole balance mechanic, and there's a whole lot in it. Um, One of the things that is interesting in Avatar Legends is that it also uses emotional consequences for health. So if you take a consequence, if you take damage, right? It's either fatigue, so there's kind of like these sort of temporary consequence of just quote fatigue, or it's an emotional consequence, like you're frightened or you're angry or something like that. And I think that having your health be an emotional consequence is good and bad. It's good in the sense that it lends itself to the kind of GMing that I do, which is, how do you feel about that? But when you have those emotional consequences have names to start out, it can be limiting. So, fate, for example, can give you emotional consequences that are freeform because you take it as the consequence is an aspect that you take and it is named when you take that consequence rather than are you going to check off angry, frightened, um,
Hmm.
embarrassed, whatever it is, insecure, right? So if, for example, your character is already angry and you take another consequence that would normally make you even angrier, like full tilt in Thirsty Sword Lesbians and Avatar, and a few other games that have it more as a check mark, you you can't there isn't leeway for I am on full tilt. I have no emotional regulation. I have only one feeling right now, and it is rage, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever the feeling is, I feel deeply embarrassed, or I'm not just frightened now, I'm terrified, right? And I'm going to run away because I'm in fight or flight, right? So I think that Fate does a terrific job with that, because you can just say, okay, your, your moderate consequence of being scared out of your mind has just gone severe, and like you're going to have to overcome an obstacle to do anything except run away or
Mm.
fight, or like what, do a fight or flight response. So I like that narrative flexibility. But I will say that as a GM, and having seen how it plays out with players, players get decision paralysis pretty easily.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if it's, what is your emotional consequence, here's the dictionary, versus what is your emotional consequence, here's a list of 5. Picking from a list of 5 is easier. And at the table, it plays easier, it plays a little bit more smoothly. But if you have experienced Fate players, they're like, "Great, I'm gonna pull one out that I use all the time, and that's gonna be, I'm so embarrassed, and now I'm stammering, or I'm, whatever their consequences are." People who play Fate a lot tend to have sort of a list of aspects that they draw on a lot. I don't think I have ever run a Fate game that didn't eventually have on fire as an aspect, either on a person or usually on a scene. So yeah, it's very, very common. It's just like on fire, like great.
I did a little bit of a play testing this morning for another game, and that very same example I used was like, oh, like you can get the subtrait flammable, and then like it doesn't mean anything on its own, but it can lead to being on fire, and that's way worse.
Yeah.
See, the funny thing is with that on fire, Jared's, thinking of that in very practical terms. On the other hand, Stephanie, in talking about your kind of emotional spectrum, that on fire that you mentioned, I was more picturing the meme of the dog in the room.
Right.
This is fine. Like I'm thinking that kind of on fire.
That can be the case too. And you could even say, nothing is physically on fire, but like maybe somebody is, becoming a hotshot celebrity. They're on fire,
Ooh.
you can have all kinds of things. Fire is very evocative. Uh, so I do like, I mean, like I said, every Fate game that I've ever run, something ends up with on fire as an aspect. It's, whether it's temporary or it's, emotional or physical, it does not matter. Somehow somebody always comes up with, oh, it's going to be on fire. So, yeah.
Taking a look at your next thing on here, you have a standing table, it looks like. Your next JRPG fantasy for Fabula Ultima is a weekly game on Tuesday, is that right?
Yeah. So, that's a little weird one. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Fabula Ultima, great game. Love this game. I Somebody reached out to me on Start Playing and said, "Hey, I would be interested in a text-only game." Now, I don't do
Oh,
play-by-post games. And I don't do play-by-post games because remember that undiagnosed ADHD? I have a tendency to wander away from the game and then never come back. And I don't
sure.
want to ghost my players. So instead, I said, "Okay, what if I'm a fast typer? What if we have a live text only game?" Right.
Hmm.
So this person reached out. I think they may have, auditory issues. I don't know if it's a hearing disability or auditory processing, or maybe they're shy about speaking. I don't. It doesn't matter to me what their reasons are. I'm fairly accommodating for whatever people need, and so I said, okay, how about if we run Tuesday night? We'll run a live text chat only game. So it's all at the same time,
Yeah.
right? But it's all through text chat. So no voice, no audio, just text. And um and I have a player who signed up, and I had another player who signed up, and I said, "Great, let's schedule our first session." And then one of the players had a family emergency and is going to have to drop. So
Oh no.
I know this isn't gonna air till Monday. I'll have a couple days to let the other player know that we're gonna have to put it on pause again. The game has not started. The campaign has not started yet. So anyway, so if you go to my Start Playing Games profile and you see that, it means there's open seats. The other thing that's kind of cool about this game is I'm offering a big discount. I typically charge $20 to $25 a session, and I'm pretty sure this one is like eight,
Yeah.
10.
Mhm. 8.
Yeah, it's on deep discount because it's an experiment, and we're going to see how it goes and how it works. So I put it on discount so that we'd have some opportunity to try and fail if we have
I,
to.
Nothing
I
wrong with
do.
that.
That's an incredibly important statement, though, giving yourself permission to fail, right? Because
Oh
if you
yeah,
don't try it, how do you even know? And this could end up being the next big thing. You don't know. Um, I would love
I
to
don't
follow up
know.
with you to see how it goes because it sounds fascinating, honestly.
I I I will be fascinated to see how it goes too, as soon as we get another player. So, um, so sign up. Hey, listeners, this is
Yeah.
your
There
chance.
we go. Go check it out.
Check it out.
How
How?
long are those sessions going to be?
I have them limited to 2 to 3 hours at the most. I don't. Nobody wants to type for 4.5 hours except
Yeah,
possibly me.
that
Uh,
thought crossed my mind.
yeah. So I don't want them to be super long either, which is the other reason why they're on a discount. So,
Makes sense. I
yep.
am a little curious. If I'm understanding the website right, this is the only game that you are currently seeding, but it says you've hosted 73 through here so far.
Yep.
So I'm curious. Do you often have multiples that you're trying to juggle at once? Do you limit yourself to one at a time, and that 73 has included some one shots and the like, or
Yeah. There's a lot of one shots in that. I do short campaigns. So what I will do is I will recruit for what I call a mini arc, which will be a session 0 and then 3 sessions, 3 play sessions.
Mm,
okay?
And when I was doing that weekly, which is totally fine, totally fun, it means that you sign up and you're going to be in for about a month, and then we have a pause. We take at least 1 week off. It gives me a chance to refill my creative well, and it gives players a natural point where they can jump off or on. A lot of people they may not have a stable work schedule, or they may try it. They try it for a month. They knew when they signed up that it was going to cost them, $60 or whatever. And then at the end of that month, they're like, I didn't get that much out of it. Okay, that's fine. Not for you, no problem. There's no ongoing social commitment to come back, right? If you want to jump off at that point and say, hey, I'm going to sit the next one out, that's cool. If you want to jump off and never come back, also fine, right? I think that a lot of the longer campaigns, first of all, they can lead to a lot of burnout on the GM side as well as players. I've I've attempted to run a number of the D&D full campaigns
mm.
and have never finished one of them as a GM because people burn out. They're like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
I'm kind of not having fun anymore. All right. I don't make people play if they're not having fun. It's kind of a rule of mine, you know. And so for me, it's like the shorter campaign is great. It, they and then after that week or maybe two, after that little break, we come back and I have another session 0 and I've, recruited other players perhaps or not. And then we do another arc and we may continue the same characters, or if somebody's like, I wasn't enjoying that character, you want to change, that's fine, you know. So it gives them that opportunity to switch things up. It also gives them, like, those longer campaigns, you feel like now I'm locked in, right? And the only way that I'm going to exit, like, if you're somebody who has a lot of social anxiety, it's really hard to say I'm not having fun and I want to leave, right? But it's really important to be able to do that. And so I think giving sort of the space for people to do that, and probably if I were a good capitalist, I'd be like, no, I got them locked in, I got to keep them, but I'm not.
That's
And
okay.
so
That's not what we need more of. That's okay.
right. So the short answer, to make a long answer short, a short answer long. You asked, like, do you have just one campaign going at a time? Typically, what I will have is I will have one one mini arc going, and I may be like recruiting for the next arc, or I may be doing like a one shot here or there. um like the drama system one shot was kind of in a lull between, it was in a break between mini arcs right before another arc started. So it was like a good time to throw a game out there and have some fun with it, and do a play test. And so I'll do that a lot. I'll do a lot of one shots for play testing. um my playtest philosophy is to get my game in front of as many people, of different kinds of people as I can. I did the playtesting for Threadbare, which was, several years ago, and before I was even on Discord, was largely done through Skype and like Google Hangouts and stuff. And it was great. I did so much playtesting online, and it gave me a really broad group of people to try out my game and tell me what worked for them and what didn't. And I was able to see things that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. I was able to play with people that had disabilities I had never thought of.
Mm,
I played with somebody who needed me to send the character sheets in advance, and this was embarrassing for me because I screwed this up pretty good. And I sent the character sheets in advance, and then I changed them between the time I
awesome.
sent them to the players
Mm,
and the time we played. I didn't realize that they'd asked for them in advance because of a visual disability. I just thought they wanted to, pick their character. And so because I changed them, that person had a very hard time, uh, you know, reading the character sheet because I then had to send them a new character sheet. So it was embarrassing for me because I was like, oh, I did not realize that that was why you needed that. Now I am smarter. I have learned a thing, and so now it's, if I'm going to recruit for a game and I'm going to have pre-generated characters, I make sure those pre-generated characters, I can send those in advance for people who need them or for people who want them. And all kinds of things like that, where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. And I would never have had that opportunity to play with that person at a convention, because
yeah,
that person does not go to conventions. Not that blind people don't go to conventions. That
That
person in
specific person.
particular, I talked to them, they don't go to conventions. They have, they said, most conventions cannot accommodate all of their disabilities, so they just don't go, or they can't afford to, or combination, right? So it was a good, like, playtesting online is a really good way to play your game with people you don't know.
Do
you know
you,
so
do you find that that expectation changes? I've got a couple questions actually, and I'm just going to ask them kind of rapid fire. One, just for my clarity, So you said you charge about 20 and $25 per chair. Is that for the whole mini arc or is that per session?
per session.
Okay. Yep. So I was
Yeah.
trying to figure that out. I'm like, there's no way it'd only be because if you divide that up, $5 per session. Like, especially my always standby is always compare it like going to the movies. Like, you're gonna
Yeah,
spend
Mhm.
yeah,
more than that going to the movies these days anyway. Like, yeah, 100%. Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank
Dollars
you.
per hour of entertainment is how I
Yeah.
always think of
Yeah.
movies and, I mean, gambling, if I'm gonna go to a
Sure.
casino or whatever, but I think RPGs fit right into that same
Yeah.
Well,
kinda metric.
and Start Playing Games did they do metrics on this kind of thing quite a bit. And they'll share some of that with the paid GMs. They don't share all of their metrics, and they shouldn't, because that's a core part of their intellectual property. But they share some of those metrics, and early on they shared the fact that players who sign up for $5 do not stay.
Hmm,
And at the time, the sweet spot was like 15. It's gone up to about 20 to 25.
interesting.
So and that's in the last 3 years, as it's become more accepted and a little more mainstream. There's a lot of people who are really, really hostile to paid GMing. Um, that's fine. There's plenty of free games out there. People can be GMs for free. It's great. It's awesome. I support that. I still am doing this largely to bootstrap other games that I design. So for me, it's like it's not paying my bills. It's
Yeah.
it's paying for the next game that I write.
Mhm.
So if you want more awesome games, find your favorite game designer and hire them to run a game for you. John Wick has a Start Playing Games profile. John
Mhm.
Wick, author of Seventh Sea. Okay. Amazing, amazing game designer and also paid GM. So terrific, terrific experience. Do you get that opportunity to play a game with John Wick every day? No, but with the magic of internet, you could. So,
Yeah.
delightful stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see him posting about that, and I think, his Patreon as well. I think he might be doing some playtesting stuff through the Patreon.
Yeah.
Um, there's, I guess, multiple avenues these days for folks looking to kind of, fund that next thing, fund
Yep.
kind of the trying to think, the, not necessarily a whole game, people got Kickstarter, Backer Kit, and all those sorts of things, but to fund the the pieces that are necessary to even get to that kind of point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bootstrapping. It's literally funding the part that gets you to the funding model, you know. And startups do this too. Like every business venture that needs to have a marketing budget to get customers before they can get momentum and get more customers.
Mhm.
Every business, every venture has some form of doing that. And it's great. It's a great model. The other thing that people do a lot of, which I don't do any, is streaming and podcasts and all of that. um I like being a guest on podcasts. I do not like producing podcasts. Please don't ask me to edit audio or video. I'm not a sound engineer, and I did write video blogging for dummies, but that was almost 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
so
It has
so
changed a lot since then,
it's
I'm
changed a
sure.
ton, and it changed while I was kind of out of the loop, because I lived in an RV and traveled around for a couple of years, and I just kind of just dropped it as a hobby, which is fine. But because of that, I'm not up on all of the cool stuff, and so
Yeah.
I just don't do it. But I've met a lot of people who do, and they're very creative. They're doing some amazing things in the streaming world and the video blogging world and everything else. And more power to them. I went to Comic-Con this year, and I went to a it's a speed networking event, right? So you get people in in comic creation or games creation in a room, and they talk to each other and see if, hey, the project I'm interested in writing, is it a project you're interested in drawing for, right? Or they put a bunch of creative folks together, and we just rotated tables, and that was super cool. And the problem was, I think I think something like 75% of the people I talked to were in some form of streaming or media production, and not really in creating a game or
Mhm.
creating a comic or creating, the foundational media, but rather expressing it in a audio video format, which was cool. But for me, who is like really out of the loop on that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, at least I got people's cards so I can call them and say, hey, I want to do this thing and I don't know what I'm doing. So so for that it was good. But if they're like looking for somebody who's going to be a good business partner for them, I don't have the right connections for that anymore. And so I'd be kind of adrift.
The medium of the streaming and the actual plays is totally amazing. The only reason we started this was kind of like a marketing for Honor Bound that we're working on, but these interviews have turned into something totally different that I'm thoroughly enjoying. Like something, one thing I'm going to take away from just this interview is just you repeated it a couple times, and I think it's incredibly important to repeat, but the bootstrapping. It's just that idea to dovetail and feed into itself to make something bigger. So simple, so achievable, but if you label it right, have a goal for what you're doing so you can make it achievable. I think that's phenomenal. Uh,
Yeah.
for folks that are like maybe looking into doing some like pro GMing, is there any advice you'd give to them? And then I just have one last question that I want to check in after that.
Sure. So I think if you're looking to become a pro GM, here are the things I would suggest. First of all, uh, pick a game that you like to run, and if you don't know what you would like to run, go run a couple games for your friends and figure it out. Right? It's awesome to play games with your friends. Start offering to GM a session or GM a one shot. Just try it out. If you've never GM'd before, you probably want to have GM'd a little bit before you hang your shingle out. Okay. So that would be my first piece of advice, is have a little experience as a GM. Because when people pay you, the pressure will you will feel it, even if your players never try to make you feel that pressure. You yourself will feel that, and you want to be prepared for that. Uh, you start playing games. I think it's a really really good website for the marketing side. I hate marketing, and they do the marketing for me. It's great. If you GM Dungeons and Dragons, they do a lot more marketing for Dungeons and Dragons for the other games. I look at it as rising tide raises all boats. My little, Fabula Ultima game is going to come along with the Dungeons and Dragons flood, and eventually somebody will find it. Yay!
Yeah.
Um, there's probably other places that are better to advertise as well. You can reach out to the game communities that you're in. Always ask before you promote your game in somebody's Discord, or a Facebook group or an online forum, or anything like that. Always ask whoever is the moderator, hey, is it okay if I post about this thing? um, some of them are not okay with paid games, and you'll get in trouble. You'll get in hot water. I'm in a Facebook group that would be perfect for me to tell them about my games that I run, and I can't because they have a no paid games policy. Okay,
Wow.
I respect that. and I don't post about it. That's fine. Similarly, I'm in a group that is for non-male people who play Dungeons and Dragons, right? Great group, very, very, queer and trans friendly, lovely folks. And they have once a week, they have self promo day where if you
Sure.
have a paid game or you have, art commissions or whatever you do that is related to the topic of RPGs and you want to tell people about it, once a week they have that you can post it there, and they've made that explicit in their rules. So I can post there. Even though it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's a role-playing game. So they're cool with me posting there. And I've gotten some good players out of that
Nice.
group. But yeah, so tell your friends. I have a friend who she is always allowed to play in my games for free because she will promote to her network about my games, and she's directly responsible for, I think, 4 other players joining my game. Her specifically posting on just on her network and saying, "Come play games with me. Stephanie's a good GM. Come play with her."
Sheesh.
And I've gotten people who sign up because of her. So, my thanks to her is you can play in my game anytime you feel like you want to play in my game. You don't have to worry about paying for it. Uh, I'll either give you a ridiculously deep discount or just comp you for sessions as you need. Like, that's fine. Because it's kind of like it's like um my realtor, if I buy another house with my realtor, she waives a certain portion of her commission
Oh,
Yeah.
because she didn't have to pay the marketing to get me
Mm.
to be a customer of hers. I'm already a customer. So it's a repeat customer discount. So it's kind of like that. It's like a referral bonus or however you want to look at it. One way or the other, she's saving me on a cost in a way of promotion and advertisement. And if it's not a financial cost, it's still a cost of my energy and my effort and my time
Yep.
and my goodwill, you know. If the only thing you do in a group is tell them about your paid games, people are not going to like you. That's the other part of it. uh, so those groups that you join and want to talk about your game, your paid game, or the game that you published or whatever, make sure you also participate in that
Yeah.
group and tell them about other people's games that are cool. And it's a good the goodwill when you are an independent creator like this is crucial. And one of the reasons why um, people will fall off is if people start perceiving you as you're just here to pimp your game, they'll stop listening to you, and you'll become sort of this, you're seen as kind of spammy, a little sleazy. Nobody wants that person in their community, and and you'll find yourself not in that community. So
Well, hey, speaking of communities, oh, go, nope, nope,
I was going to ask real quick if your final question was about promotion related stuff,
it
or
is
if I
not.
could slip this in beforehand.
No, please do.
And I apologize that I'm doing it this way, but there's a reason. It's for my own thing, but I'm mentioning it because you talking about messaging moderators and that sort of thing and being careful where you promo and that type of thing reminded me that I am so abysmal at promoting something that I created for people to promote stuff.
yep.
Which is the Reddit sub RPG promo. I'm the moderator there. It is for people to come post this stuff. We've got 1.6 thousand people according to the thing I just checked. Your mileage may vary on what kind of traction you get, but just wanted to throw that out there on the topic of promo while you're looking for places and making sure it's an appropriate place to post, as Stephanie said. Drop by this place because it's for that.
So that's /r/RPG promo.
Yes.
Great. I will. I will sub and post there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
The other thing
marketable.
is, if you've got a friend who's in marketing and does social media, partner up, pay them. When I say partner up, I mean pay them either in money, or in something that they actually need or want. So again, I've got this friend who I will comp the games for anytime, right? That's an unofficial partnership. If she wanted to make it official, I probably would. If I've got a terrific friend who's a terrific social media person. I can't afford her right now. Someday, but yeah, I would hire her in a heartbeat. And if she wanted to trade, game design for her marketing, I would totally do that. So if you find people that have skills that you are looking for, see what you can trade. You might be surprised too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Trying to figure out what kind of network that you can form on your own too, with to it's ends up a lot what we're doing here from talking to other people. It's amazing to hear that people that have had successful starts anyway has usually been starting off that way. We hear a lot of well, I just took the time to talk to people. We hear that a lot from people that have
Yep.
been successful.
Yep.
I do want to jump on this before I forget, is that beforehand, which I didn't know, that we need to get some promo for yourself. You've got your own little Discord. Where can people find you and talk to you? How do they do that?
Okay. So I'm on startplaying.games under the GM username of Mortain. And you guys have show notes, right, for your
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah.
We'll drop a bunch of links in there. If you sign up for one of my games at Start Playing Games, you'll get a message that says, "Hey, please join the Discord," and that's got the Discord link in there. If I rattled off the Discord link right now, it would just be a jumble of letters and numbers.
Sure.
That's pointless. So instead, find the Start Playing games link. I'm also on mortain.itch.io, and I'm on Drive Through RPG as Stephanie Bryant. If you find Threadbare on Drive Through RPG, you will find me as the publisher name is Stephanie Bryant. I'm just doing business as my own name. Name recognition is super easy if you use your own name. My my
Way
blog.
easier than the routes that Jerod and I chose.
Yes.
Yeah. My blog is mortain.com/blog. And if you go there, there's a link at the top that says there's like tabs at the top that say my games. And one of them, if you just click that, it goes to games I've written. And it's just an incredibly long resume of all of the games that I've ever written. Some of them are released for free. Some of them are links to, where you can find them on drive through. They're it's kind of all over the place. So some of them are at commercial websites because that's a thing. Um, and some of them are actually still in progress. So you'll see things that I'm currently working on and have not released, which is always fun if you want to see what I've been sleeping on for a while. So, but yeah, there's some fun stuff. I put out zines every so often. Last year we put out, a friend of mine and I put out a zine called Exit Pursued by a Bear, which is a collection
Yep.
of stupid little RPGs about Cocaine Bear.
Oh,
And
I was expecting Shakespeare.
I've got
yeah,
your
I know.
I've got the Kickstarter pulled up here for you.
Yep. And it's some of them are Some of them are just hacks of other games. So we have a hack of Everyone is John, where everyone is Pablo Escobar, which is that's the name of Cocaine Bear, the actual historical Cocaine Bear.
I love it.
Um, there's an entire fate scenario for Cocaine Bear. We have an original solo game in there. It's just, it's just and there's an article in there that I wrote about the Appalachian region and kind of talking about the geography and a little bit of the culture there as well, which is kind of cool.
This is an awesome segue into what I was going to end on. And I have a creation of yours here called Are You Sheriff Dullard? A Mafia Hack. So
Yes.
I have two comments about it. First one is, what? Are you kidding me? My second comment is amazing. You want to tell people about that one at all and how that
Okay.
came to be?
Sure. Okay, so in 2013, so you'll notice the date on that is August 2013.
Hmm.
My birthday's in August. I threw a red and wild birthday party that year. Everyone came dressed in red. Uh, let me tell you, where I live in Las Vegas in August, late August, which is when my birthday is, the wind starts picking up. I don't know that there has been a birthday party in the last 5 to 10 years where we didn't have wind, which is a shame because I have a pool and I like to throw my party in the pool. And then all of the stuff from the trees falls into the pool too. So it's a little bit okay. So that party was super fun because the next day there was because we'd put like floating candles in the pool, and
Oh.
the next day there were feathers from boas and candle wax in the pool filter, and my husband was just like,
No.
"Must have been a good party." Okay. So so Are You Sheriff Dullard? I wrote this little mafia hack for specifically for that party. We played To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julia Newmar on the TV in the living room, and then we played Are You Sheriff Dullard as just kind of a fun, it's like Are You the Werewolf, or Mafia, or those kind of inductive accusation style games. So yeah, it's
I just
it's
That's
love going
great.
through people's filmography of their games and bibliography of their games. And that one immediately, when I said to,
yeah, that one's
I
super
was just
fun.
like, I want to know about this one.
If you want a LARP you don't want to sleep on, I co-authored Mix Universe with an old friend of mine, and it's a non-binary fashion pageant game.
I
And
mean, classic, right?
all I'm gonna say is that I'm the emotional damage GM, and
Oh
that
no.
game you think is going to be about like playing dress up and doing a fashion show, and
Uh-huh.
you are wrong. That game is going to hit you in the feels pretty hard at a certain point. And
Uh,
yeah, so
Interesting.
yeah.
love it. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having
thank
me. It
you.
was super fun. I love doing this kind of thing. Just sit down and talk with a couple other gaming nerds for a couple hours. Like that's fabulous. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Made my evening. So yeah.
Well,
Good.
good.
I
Happy
definitely
to do
want to
our
do.
part.
I definitely want to do a follow up to see how the text only adventure goes. On my end, my name's Jared. Is there anything else you'd like to throw in, Will?
Yeah, I'm Will. Jerod also I think is having trouble with the self promoing here, so I'm gonna throw out that He runs Paroxysm by Design. Go check out the YouTube videos, check out the games he's putting out. I run Gamenomicon, which is this podcast feed, but there's also a variety of games. And this podcast was a part of a series we're working on. Will and Jerod Make a Game. We're working on Honor Bound. You can track that down to go follow on Kickstarter before it launches. And it has ballooned into this larger kind of interview series that is turning out to be a lot of fun. So check out the past interviews for sure, and upcoming for that matter.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.